what they did to him. How any human could do that to another.
Tom's family now waiting for that phone call that no family ever wants to get.
That was Michael Walsh speaking to our reporter Paul Quinn. Now here in studio to discuss the issue of rural crime is Fianna Fáil TD Niamh Smyth, Sinn Féin TD Martin Kenny and Sunday Times crime and security correspondent John Mooney. And we're very cognizant that there is a family right now really in a desperate situation, Tom's family, and we can only hope for the best and think about them at this time. But Martin, I'll come to you first because this happened in your constituency. What have people been saying to you about the nature of this brutal attack and the fear around something like this happening?
I suppose it really brings home to people the vulnerability of many people that live in rural, isolated areas. And you know that there are people out there who can carry out an attack like this is absolutely horrendous. This man, an innocent man, going about his business, get a knock to the door and people come in like that and beat him and abuse him to the state that he's on the brink of death. And it's, you know, everyone's heart goes out to him and to his family and to the community out there. But I suppose really, you know, we while thankfully, you know, we haven't seen too much of this in recent times, but it certainly has been something that we've had going on for a long number of years, where we've had incidents around rural Ireland where people have been broken into and burgled and all of that. And really we need to have, you know, more Garda presence. There's a whole lot of things that can be part of the solution here. And really I think it's about prevention, it's about detection, and it's about deterrence as well. And that's, to me, the three elements of this that we have to get right. While many people are complaining about, you know, rural Garda stations closed down, and that's certainly, I suppose, something that people had there that was reassuring them that there was a Garda station down the road. The visual,
that there was a local Garda station.
You know, at the same time, I have to also understand that the Garda are out there in the community. They are, you know, patrolling a lot of areas. But like, take my constituency of Sligo, Leitrim. It's sparsely populated. You have huge rural areas over a very, very large part of the world, where you're talking about, you know, 50, 40 miles of an area square where Gardaí have to cover, and it is difficult to do that, and that's another reality to it as well. We also, of course, have the deterrent aspect of it. You know, a lot of these people are repeat offenders. They end up going to the courts, they end up getting bail. Many of them go out and do the same thing while they're on bail. You know, and there's issues around all that we need to deal with as well. And
the cycle of crime.
The cycle of crime and how we can break that.
You know, I was struck when I was looking at this story that people in this area, in Tom's area, reported 14 break-ins in the locality in the past 2 months. So this was a community that was well aware that there were vulnerable people that were really under threat there. And I doubt this area of Sligo is the only place around the country that's seeing a rise in crime now after a relatively quiet couple of years, probably because of the pandemic. Isn't it a worry that perpetrators evidently believe that they're untouchable in this regard, Niamh?
It absolutely is, and it just kind of brought home, we've had so many, I suppose, tragic things happen in recent weeks, and to see this happen, as John quite rightly alluded to earlier in our conversations before the show, it is happening, unfortunately, on a daily basis. But we are, I suppose, the difficulty is we are in an island, and most of, you know, where the population lives, well, the vast majority, particularly of older people, are in kind of rural road networks. That makes it very difficult, I suppose, for Gardaí to police in the way they would in more urban areas. But I mean, I suppose the community alerts to Munch na Tíre, all these people delivering panic buttons, all those kind of crime prevention things are hugely important.
Is it properly resourced, that sort of crime prevention, the text alerts, the community? Is the funding in place to help people feel secure at a very local level? Yeah, well, we had our estimates meeting with the Minister for Justice today, and we actually went through those deliverables, those things that are actually happening on the ground. And money has now been set aside to set up a safety innovation community fund. But there are community alert organisations across the country. Yes, how much, when you're looking at the funding and the breakdown of that funding, for this area and rural crime and providing protection to people, how much funding is going
well, for that particular scheme, it's quite small. It's only $1 million, but it's just to get this initiative started up. And I suppose that's to encourage really community groups to be active and, I suppose, doing things on the ground within their communities. But I mean, there is significant funds, I suppose, put aside. I don't have the figures in front of me now in terms of, you know, what they're rolling out. But the important...
This is essentially sort of self-policing, getting the community to get involved.
Well,
and
it is,
protect
and to
themselves.
have that engagement with our Gardaí. I mean, there was a time when we went through where there was no community guards. JPCs are now very active, and I suppose we have come through 2 years
are
of
JPCs?
COVID, joint policing committees, and they're obviously working with our local authorities and Gardaí and people in the community to try, I suppose, and keep information flowing to our Gardaí, which can be hugely helpful for them in crime prevention.
Yeah, is this a very important part when we're looking at rural crime, John, in terms of, you know, the challenge that we're talking about, you know, large areas, houses dotted around the place, people very isolated and feeling very vulnerable. Is that the sort of things that Niamh's talking about, is that the solution here? But is enough being invested in it to make people actually feel safe?
Well, it is necessary. I think when you think about these issues, it's really important to remember that crime exists in rural Ireland. So a lot of these people who engage in this type of offending come from provincial towns, small towns, and they're part of the communities. There was a time that many of the gangs who engage in this particular type of offending came from urban areas, used the motorway network to travel around and reach targets, and would sometimes come back. That can be a problem to them because they're seen by cameras. It's easy to intercept them, and indeed the guards have countless operations where they've officers in high-speed cars that are capable of pursuing these criminals and these mobile gangs quite quickly and quite effectively. So there's lots of different factors going on here. I think when you think about rural crime, you have to look at it as a kind of almost with a holistic approach to targeting it. Indeed, many people might think that community alert projects are irrelevant. They're not. They're very effective because sometimes they can alert detective units to the presence of criminals in an area, and it also gives the Gardaí the ability to monitor what's going on. Like whoever carried out this particular attack, they're not sort of organised crime gang or anything like that. The amount of money in it's far too small. These are opportunistic criminals that are predating on a very old man.